Okay.
Yeah.
It just doesn't matter what we ask the producer for. It just doesn't seem to happen.
Well, she's a teenage girl. Her name's Ella. She's going to do what she wants to do, and that's it. That's the way it's going to go.
We're fine. We are good. Welcome to a beautiful Sunday in October.
Yeah.
In Albuquerque, where anytime you're talking the first week of October in Albuquerque, it is the event of the season. People.
That's right.
It is the event of the season.
Well, I took a little bit of video just at our front door today. It is the official kickoff weekend for the International Balloon Fiesta. And for those of you who don't live here, Ella, you may want to zoom in a little bit. I can't tell you that my video expertise is amazing, but it will just give you a little bit. You just wake up and there's just balloons all over the place. And for them to travel their way to our backyard is not what you see every single time.
Not always. We're sort of a flight path if the winds are right. You know how that stuff goes. But we're not, it's not every time we're like seeing people dropping in the old backyard.
No.
That doesn't happen.
They were so close today that I could hear the
burners.
The burners.
Yeah.
That's what woke me up actually this morning.
So. Yeah. For those of you who are not from New Mexico and who listen to this show, it is... If you're going to come to New Mexico and check out an event, it is incredible. I mean, there are a bunch of great things to see here, but this is by far the most amazing event that's put on every year, and it is legendary. There are some 400 plus balloons that go up. The numbers fluctuated over time as Albuquerque's gotten bigger. It's still tougher for them to find places to land, but the Balloon Fiesta is incredible. It's such a credit to the city and to the state. It's great to be part of it, to be able to see it.
Yeah, and it's a good thing you're wearing your Scorpions football shirt to kick off the International Balloon Fiesta.
Let's talk
a little bit about that.
Well, I got to be honest with you. Anytime you're talking Farmington football, you're getting into the Scorps. And so, you just kind of go like that. Just, that's what they do. It's how a scorpion strikes you. It's, the tail.
You think that's what the kids are doing these days?
No, I have no idea.
They're not doing that. But I'm just going to go ahead and take a stab in the dark. That is not what they're doing.
Well, some of our close friends from Farmington got this to us, so I am proud to wear the Scorpions colors
it's cool.
today.
I like it.
It's a good looking shirt, actually.
Yeah, you look solid.
Yeah, no, we love it.
That's
and
nice.
Farmington High School, great community up there in San Juan County. And by the way, speaking of that, great guest coming up on Wednesday, Ken Christensen, former sheriff up there, is going to run again, but we're going to talk to him about life and law enforcement and what is happening in this country. Interesting conversation with him. You definitely want to check that out on Wednesday.
Right, and we also talked to him a little bit about what's going on just in the state with law enforcement.
Yeah, no question, and across the country and all this different stuff that's happening. So
he's got some insight. Okay, let's start with a couple of quick emails, and then we're going to dive right in.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. All right, the first email comes in from Cheryl, I think is the way this is said, Cheryl. On the poll on being a sanctuary state, I've lived here for 34 years and I've never been approached to do a poll. So how do they get their numbers? Because I never even voted on being a sanctuary state. So why don't you talk a little bit about, polling so well. So
well, the reason you never were consulted on being a sanctuary state, Cheryl, is because you never had a voice in it. It was the mayor of Albuquerque who basically swept through and did that. So
and the sanctuary state side is the governor.
Yeah, so when the state legislature or your mayor or your city council go in and say, we're not going to cooperate, and they either pass these things through different laws or just the way that they're interpreted. A lot of times, this stuff isn't even about a law. It's about what your governor or mayor chooses to do with the police department. And a lot of this can be sort of an administrative thing, too. So sanctuary states and sanctuary cities, you don't get a voice in them, unfortunately. And I completely understand the frustration in all of this. Now, as far as polling goes, realistically, if you're going to do a poll of the whole state, realistically, a poll size for the whole state of New Mexico is 500 people, maybe. Mm-hmm. So I don't doubt that Cheryl hasn't gotten a call. A lot of times that doesn't happen, and sometimes you do. We've been polled before. Other times, when we've seen polling go out there, you wonder if you ever get polled. Now, I will say, the good polling outfits in the state, Brian Sandross, pretty good pollster. There are pollsters like Public Opinion Strategies who do work in the state. They're very, very good. Now, doesn't mean they're always right on everything, but polling can be helpful to tell you what the direction of things are going. But again, not always correct. A lot of times Trump is legendary for underpolling and things like that. But overall, that polling can be beneficial in some ways.
Okay. All right. Well, here's our next one. It says, this came in from Ken. Ken asked, have you seen Keller's new campaign commercial where he brags about not cooperating with ICE without a warrant? He hasn't done blank for New Mexico, but brags about this. Okay.
Well, we did. When we got this email, we decided to hunt down his ad. And actually, I was watching the Cowboy game a few minutes ago, and Keller had this ad up. We'll talk about why that's significant in a second. But we do want to play the ad for you. and then we'll break it down as gently as possible.
Oh, no. It won't be gentle.
Or not.
Pop quiz. True or false? Tim Keller created the nation's first community safety department with mental health responders, so police are freed up to fight crime.
Oh, yeah, they are.
He created before and after school programs for
This
10,000
is a
children.
young kid walking around with Keller, for those of
2,500
you that
affordable
can't see
housing
it.
units. And shelter with addiction treatment for 1,000 homeless. He's also blocking ICE if they don't have a warrant.
We're getting a lot more done than the news media is telling you about. Approved by Tim Keller.
Or that you're seeing with your own eyes, because you realize the crime, you realize the homelessness, and you realize what type of shape our city is in after 8 years of my leadership. Yeah. Although I didn't say that. Okay, so interesting first foray into ads for him. I think, first of all, I think going forward, not all of them are going to be this flowery. They had a kind of a pleasant-looking girl walking around with them, younger girl, just saying all these great things that Keller has done that nobody cares about,
With
quite frankly.
Peppy music. And
right. With it, yeah, just
sing-songy.
it's real. Hey, hoo ha, hey ha.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's the advantage you get when you have 4 times more money than anybody else. But he doesn't have so much money that he can spend too much time in this world. So my guess is that he will start to turn a little bit more toward I'm going to tackle Trump kind of thing. I think he's going to pivot to that. But right now, he's just doing this kind of positive, flowery ad. Now, he ran it on the Cowboy game. And I will tell you, there is no bigger audience in the state of New Mexico, period, than a Cowboy game. They by far, the biggest numbers. You're going to get 15, 16 rating points out of a Cowboy game. That's 150, 160,000 people. Okay, I mean, not quite that much, but it's up in there. Okay, it's in the 130 range anyway. So that is a lot of money. Okay, so he's spending some real money to put an ad in. He only ran one that I could tell during the Cowboy game. But that's the, like, if we're in a big campaign, that was always our first choice. You put an ad during a Cowboy game, especially when it's competitive.
Yeah.
And
well,
so
it's interesting, you know, this whole I've been putting all this money behind the homeless, and we have 1,000 beds built, This is the Gateway Center, right? We've talked about this a little bit. We have people that go and actually serve there and try to help out. There's so many empty beds. The problem is you can say I put this infrastructure in place, but the fact of the matter is you're not filling the beds.
Right.
So you can say you're doing all this and you still have a massive homelessness issue. And there has been no actual work towards getting those folks off the street. So.
Right. And I think part of what she says in this ad, and this classically happens with incumbents, they're like, well, I did the Tommy rigmarole program to help Judy Thomas and her friend. You know, they do these little things that don't matter. Mm-hmm. Right? They don't matter. Okay, so ultimately, homelessness is out of control, and so is crime. We all know this. Keller has not emboldened police officers to enforce our laws more. In fact, he's put them in very difficult positions to do that. That's just a fact. Everyone can see what's happened with crime. It's undeniable. And then the ICE thing at the end.
Leaning up against an ice machine.
An ice machine. Yeah, they lean up against an ice machine. Keller feels like this helps him. I think it doesn't necessarily help him.
We're not going to help find violent offenders and criminals are here illegally. You're welcome for that.
Well, and he
unless you have a warrant, which is so ridiculous because ICE always has the warrant.
Right, I know, but again, that doesn't. But again, he's just trying to look like he's standing up to Trump. He's running against Trump. He's not running against Darren White. Right. Yeah. So we've said that, and that's what's going on here. Again, I think what this tells you is he has more money than everybody else. He's never going to get to 50% in the first round of this thing. He's just not going to. His favorability is only 42 at best, and 60+% of people want someone new as their mayor. So, you know, this guy's not going to get out without doing a runoff. And it looks like that'll be Darren White, which is kind of interesting too, because we got some comments on that as well. Right.
Just talking about a little bit about these debates that are like that, you know, KOAT has scheduled a debate. Do you know what the date is again?
Yeah, it does. I got the details on that. It is looking like it is going to be October 15th. There's going to be a debate on KOAT. Now, I want to talk a little bit about this because KOAT's debates, first of all, they do a nice job with debates usually, KOAT does. They're a professional organization, and they try to really be balanced and figure out what to do. So that's good. But so in the debate will be Keller, Luis Sanchez, Darren White, and Alex Ubaez. Okay, those are the 4 that they think are competitive. Now, I want to talk about this because I know that Mayling Armijo was excluded, and also
Eddie Varela.
What's that? Eddie Varela as well. Who Eddie Varela, a good guy as well. So you say, why aren't these 2 in the debate? I will tell you, we had a similar situation in the governor's race in 2022. We had a third-party candidate who was actually a Republican, then switched to the third party because she didn't like that she was not going to be the nominee, and decided that she was just going to run against me and not Michelle, which, whatever, okay? But she did not get into the debate, and that was a massive help to me. You don't want people in a debate that don't have a chance to win. It becomes a distraction. And if you have 5 or 6 people on a debate stage, nobody gets enough time. You don't get a chance to nail down your opponent. You don't get the opportunity to hold their feet to the fire. Because I was one-on-one with Michelle, it made it a lot easier because you don't get a break. You don't get a chance to go hide while someone else is answering and kind of pivot and everything else. So the fact that they're going to have 4 candidates on here, that is a little different. I can understand why they're a little concerned. My guess is they went with a 5% threshold, that you have to have at least 5% of the vote in a reputable poll to be on the stage.
And they're using Brian Sanderoff's
That's my guess is they're using Sanderoff.
That's who they put on their air.
Right.
They're probably looking at that information. Now, the argument there, Mark, is, well, that's just a poll. That's just one singular poll. Why would they make that decision? I mean, you have some insight on that.
Well, because you have to make some sort of decision. So my guess is they looked at money raised and they looked at the poll. I'm sorry, if you're not raising money and you don't have any poll results, you don't have a way to reach voters. It just isn't going to happen. You posting something on your Facebook page, while sounds good to your 15 friends, it does not reach thousands of people. This is different. This is not your buddies voting in an election. This is a huge election, which you have, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of people you're trying to really reach in the Albuquerque mayor's race, but you are. That's a big setup. So to me, I think this whole thing of excluding people who don't qualify has to be done. It absolutely helps. It will allow the candidates who have a reasonable chance to win this race to be on the same stage. Now, I only think there's one candidate that has a chance to beat Keller, and I think it's Darren White. I think it's very clear. I think Ubias at 5%. He's not going to get around Keller. He's running to his left.
And Louis at 6, I think.
Louis at 6. Louis getting some Republican votes, no doubt about that. He's just not going to beat Darren. So I would have gone one-on-one, Darren versus Keller, but I can understand why Channel 7 didn't, because they don't want to look like they're picking favorites that much. But they are using these different thresholds, because if you don't, you're going to sit there and hear 30 seconds here, 30 seconds there. You're going to go on and on with people who have zero chance to win. And I'm sorry, but those are just the facts. Now, if you're raising enough money, if you're Eddie Varela or you're Mailing Armijo and you have $500,000 in the bank and you're starting to spend that money on the air, then I get it. Then you belong on that stage because you have a real chance, because you're going to start to move voters. But if you haven't raised a dime and you're not able to get your message out, there's no chance of this working.
Right. And there's been some other public forum debates too.
There have.
You know, where all of the candidates have been able to speak. So.
But again, no one sees those, right?
I know.
I mean, that's the thing. Like NAOP had one recently a few days ago, and that's all well and good, but no one's there to see it other than the people from NAOP that are sitting there, right? And
the Bar Association, I think, is doing one or something, or the American Bar.
Yeah. I'm sure it's the New Mexico Bar Association, and believe me, that's not going to be the most fair debate that's ever been. But the point being in all this is that you have to exclude some people. I'm sorry for Eddie Varela. He's a good guy. And I think Mailing Armijo, I don't know her, but I'm sure she means well. It's just that you get to a certain point in an election, there are people that are competitive and there are people that are not. And as a station, you have to make that choice. Otherwise, what you're putting on the air is something that's going to be unrecognizable and helpful to nobody. So you have to make some of those calls.
Right. And early voting starts so quickly anyway. It's within a couple weeks. So
absolutely.
Anyway, okay, let's move on. Special session. It started last week. Where are we at with this? You look at this, there's this headline that came out. It says governor signs 4 special session bills into law.
Right. And by the way, those 4 special session bills passed with more than a 2/3 majority. Okay. So they had some Republican support as well.
Okay.
And so those immediately go into law. Okay, just so you know. And the 4 signed bills include a measure aimed at blunting the impact of the potential for health insurance hikes on some New Mexicans, which again hasn't been determined what's happening with that. We don't even know if it's true, but they went and had a special session just to make sure to put stuff in here, even though they have no idea. Okay, that's fine, whatever. And legislation expanding the allowable uses of state rural healthcare fund, a tax fix. There's, again, these issues, I think, not the biggest issues we face in the state. They had some bipartisan support. They went through. Okay, whatever. We'll wait and see what happens with all this stuff. The one thing that was passed that did not get signed, at least so far by the governor, is what we talked about on this show, and that is the vaccine, I guess, advocacy within the state. So who are they going to seek input from when they choose how our kids are vaccinated and in what fashion.
Yeah, the recommendation. Okay, so it says here, while taking quick action on most of the approved special session bills, Lujan Grisham did not act Friday on a bill giving state health officials greater authority to set vaccine requirements without guidance from a federal panel, meaning...
Which we talked about that.
So they're going to use American Pediatrics Association. I think that's what it's
American
called.
Association of Pediatrics.
Okay,
it's AAP, which is a pretty political organization. And
they're only going to take the recommendations, no longer
from the state,
and from the state, and no longer HHS or it's the CDC.
Right?
They're kind of saying we've done that, but now that we don't like who's in office and we don't like RFK,
right, we don't like RFK Jr., so we're not going to listen to him.
We're not going to listen to him. Yep. So that bill, Senate Bill 3, was opposed by all Republicans in the legislature and ultimately fell short of a 2/3 vote threshold needed for it to take effect immediately upon the governor's signature. As a result, the bill would not take effect until December 31st, and the governor's office indicated Friday that Lujan Grisham is still deliberating on whether to sign it. The governor has until October 22nd to act on that legislation. So,
okay. And again, the stance we took on this was very clear, and that is that the more science you can bring into this and the more reasonable voices you can bring into this to make sure that our kids are not put in a position that makes them vulnerable to especially a group that has shown in the AAP that they are much more concerned about politics than they are about science. And I just think it makes sense for the state as a whole just to make sure we get the maximum amount of science in the kind of advice that our kids and families get. And so we'll see. I don't know if she'll sign it or not. Who knows? Again, the legislative session, especially that special session, didn't address crime. It didn't address the homelessness issues. It didn't address the fact that we have massive medical problems, right? Yeah. And we're about to show you that right now. So I think a lot of this, unfortunately, was for show, and not enough of it was for real problems that face New Mexicans. And that's the problem. When everything's politics, then that's where you go. You go to politics 24/7, which it doesn't help people.
Yeah, actually, I've watched a little bit of the special session and just some of the Republicans standing up and saying, what are we doing here today? We're talking about things that haven't actually happened, cuts that actually haven't taken place.
Right, that's the thing. That's the thing you don't know.
You're asking us to pass bills of things that haven't even taken place yet. So it's interesting to see, like, what was the thinking behind this special session.
Well, it was political. It was, hey, we're going to stand up. We're going to stand up to Trump, and they're like, well, stand up to what? Well, we're not sure yet, but when we find out, we'll let you know. And here's some extra money in case we do. You know, I don't know. It just doesn't. Again, it's not helpful. I think there are a lot of big things that could be focusing on that'd be much more helpful.
Yeah, and I get frustrated because in the messages I see from the other side are talking about, well, they're trying to protect these rural hospitals from being shut down, and I'm like, well, the big beautiful bill actually allocated billions of dollars to help rural hospitals. So once the Democrats actually go back to work and allow us to put that bill into action, then we can actually help those rural hospitals. Instead of sitting here and saying, let's have a special session because our Democrats have decided to walk out of their job in Congress, and now we need to come up with some sort of special funding and because of this. It seems like a merry-go-round that makes no sense. Like, we're just, go do your job. Stay in government, do your job, and allow things to take place. I find this one really frustrating. But.
Well, I can understand the frustration, but and again, if we have issues with rural hospitals, I think you will see everybody line up to do whatever is necessary to take care of those rural hospitals.
Absolutely.
Period. And I think we will come together as a state and make sure there's not a single rural hospital that gets shut down. Do I think it will happen anyway? I think it's highly unlikely, but we'll see what ends up shaking out. But talking about the medical issues in the state, we've got one more set of numbers.
Right. This is from that Albuquerque poll. We've been kind of releasing a little bit of it each show. This one was talking about in the past year.
Commenting on it. We didn't really release it.
Well, we didn't release it. We've just been releasing little bits of it from the journals. What I meant, if that wasn't clarified.
It's their poll.
We didn't do the poll. But okay, the journal did. Okay, so here was the question. In the past year, have you or a household member had difficulty getting an appointment to see a primary health care provider or health care specialist as soon as you or they needed it? 59% said yes, that they have had difficulty getting a primary appointment. 40% said no. And this is based on a sample of 514 Albuquerque likely voters. So.
Hold on. One thing about that's interesting. Mm-hmm. These are Albuquerque voters, too. This is the one area of the state where you should have the best access to doctors. I guarantee you, if you do this poll statewide, it's 65, 70%.
Right.
At least.
You bring in some of the rural communities that have to travel to get these doctors. I mean, give me a break.
This is a crisis point that is right at the feet of our legislature, which especially the Senate will not allow for any sort of tort reform, anything that will balance the scales out to bring more doctors into the state of New Mexico. And by the way, it's not an age thing. It's not an age thing. What it basically is it's across all ages, right? So take a look at these numbers, which show you that it doesn't matter what age you are. You've had these issues. If you're 18 to 34, 73% of people said they've had this same problem.
That they couldn't get an appointment with a primary health care
They
provider.
couldn't get yes. And then if you're 35 to 49, 65% of people said they can't get an appointment with a primary. 50 to 64, 68%. Now, those numbers come down a little bit in the Medicaid group, 65 and above, at 47%.
But still, 47%, that's almost half of all your patients on Medicaid.
Can't do it. It's devastating.
Can't get any health care. So, again, you could have passed the medical compact bill, which would have allowed telehealth doctors to be able to reach these people, and we didn't deal with that in the special session.
Right. And again, governor wanted to, Speaker of the House wanted to, every single Republican wanted to, but not the Senate.
Yeah, it's
unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. So, and go back to our former shows on that if you want to. We definitely took a dive into Brian Cologne's editorial
it's brutal.
on why that's happening and the twisting of the words there. Give me a break. We need more doctors, and if we have to do that through a telehealth, we need to be opening up every channel we can.
Yeah, we need to do a lot more than that. But yeah,
but
absolutely.
at least do that.
Yeah,
at least do
agreed.
that. We're like one of the few states that are holding out on that medical compact. For why?
Yeah.
I mean, again, because trial lawyers can't seem to, make enough money in their lawsuits if we do it that way. I have no idea. But again, ridiculous. So okay.
And it was really on this whole issue, a couple weeks ago, I saw this come across my timeline, and I grabbed it at the time because I thought it was fascinating. It's a guy on TikTok called the Addiction Doc, and he's here in New Mexico. He's from New Mexico. He's moved back here. Okay, and he goes through in about a minute and a half, speech, I guess you call it, right? But he does a really good job of laying out what the issues are. And again, these are issues that affect you. It just doesn't matter your party. So this is why we should be standing up as a state saying enough of this, right? And this guy's super interesting. And here's what he had to say about when he came back to New Mexico and what exactly our problems are.
Practice is broken in New Mexico. And I don't think most people realize this, but New Mexico has the second highest malpractice insurance in the entire country. Second only to Pennsylvania. Fun fact, I just learned that. But unlike Pennsylvania, New Mexico has a major doctor shortage. High malpractice insurance is making that much worse. It drives away physicians. It makes it harder for patients to access care. I moved back to New Mexico, my home state, where I was born and raised 2 years ago, to bring back the specialty addiction knowledge that I have gained from extensive training in other states. I wanted to help, but this state is making it so difficult. Here's something personal. My own insurer denied me coverage last week. They would not extend my policy I've had for 2 years, even though I've never had a malpractice claim paid in my name in my entire career, not once. I've cared for thousands of patients, I've followed the evidence, I've trained many new clinicians, but in New Mexico, even a clean record isn't good enough. The insurer simply said they no longer want to offer physician policies here in this state, and that should worry everyone. I can't even imagine what it is like for a surgeon or an OBGYN to get coverage here in New Mexico. And to be clear, I don't want to minimize the importance of justice for victims of malpractice. When harm occurs, people deserve fair compensation. But the system needs guardrails right now. It's so skewed that even safe doctors can't stay insured, and patients end up paying the price for that.
Okay. And so what he advocates for after this is tort reform, that you have to balance the scales to allow more doctors in and to make this a better environment for doctors. We've said it a million times. If you favor lawyers over doctors, you're going to get more lawyers than doctors. And when you get sick, it doesn't matter what your political beliefs are, there's not going to be a doctor there to help you. Mm-hmm. And it's devastating. This is not an issue that should be political. And actually, it just has this massive opportunity, I think, to to change. But unfortunately, we've seen this in our legislature, and the governor signed an awful bill on this a few years ago that she had to backtrack on. Right, it was terrible. It raised the caps, and it just basically shut down the system in the state of New Mexico, and they had to go back and try to come up with a fix for it and everything else. It's just so bad right now that they have to fix this, and it affects so many people. I think it's one of the single biggest issues in the state as a whole, just because how many people are put in danger by what's happened.
Right, with not having the doctors or any of the care they actually need.
Unbelievable.
And then again, just special sessions that don't actually deal with this issue.
Yeah.
So again, will this be fixed in January?
Let's show Trump. Let's teach Trump a lesson.
Yeah, I mean,
Trump doesn't care about your lessons.
Yeah.
He doesn't care.
Yeah.
Okay. In all the political games about we're going to do this, we're going to pass this in case something happens with Trump. Okay. How about what you've already screwed up? How about you've screwed up crime to the degree where it affects everybody's lives? How about you've screwed up the healthcare system to where it affects everybody's lives? How about you screwed up the education system where it's last in the country and screwed up young kids that deserve better than what we're giving them? You don't touch any of those things, right? But at least we can show Trump. Good job.
Yeah.
Way to show Trump. Because Trump's losing sleep over that.
Yeah.
You know who's losing sleep is all the people in this state who have to deal with the poor healthcare, poor education, and skyrocketing crime. Come on, give me a break. This is not that hard. Don't get me mad. I'm getting mad again. What are you doing?
No, I think it's good that you get mad, because I think at the end of the day is, while I don't like your blood pressure going up, I do think we
better get a doctor who can take a look at that.
We can't find a doctor. I'm sorry, Mark. There's no doctor. I'll have to get my blood pressure medication or machine out, and I'll have to test it
But
yourself.
I'm trusting you to do the care.
And I don't know. I'll give you some aspirin. I don't know. We'll just make up stuff, right?
Yeah,
Because that's what we have to do here now to take care of ourselves. But no, I just think we need people to have their voices being heard, right? So that's one of the areas that we do that, obviously, is through this show. But what we want to do is encourage the media out there to also go and put pressure on these legislature. Talk about this. Why don't we have medical compacts? Write your state legislators. Write them right now, because, of course, January is right around the corner. We need this fixed. And the only way you can do that is by starting to put personal pressure on these folks. People write us all the time. How do we help? How do we get involved? Get involved in campaigns for people that are running for office that you believe in, that they're going to actually do a good job. That's one way you can help out. Support them financially, get behind them, and stop voting the same people in. I'm sorry, they've shown who they are. And again, I keep saying this, but if they're a trial lawyer, get them out of there.
Well, it depends on the trial lawyer, but yeah, probably.
No, we have enough trial lawyers in the state legislature
well,
no.
I'm not talking about the state legislature trial lawyers.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay,
so, yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. All right,
that's what I'm talking about.
I got
All
you.
right,
I got
anyway.
you. Okay, the shutdown continues, which we've been talking about. So what's going to happen with this? Well, we could start to see layoffs.
Right.
And it's just going to depend on who's going to crack first in this whole thing. So we're going to break it down a little bit politically for you. The first guy we want to kind of introduce you to is the director of National Economic Council. It's Kevin Hassett. And he does a pretty good job of sort of laying out the basics on this thing and where he thinks it's headed. And so here's what Hassett said this morning on CNN.
The president decides that the negotiations are absolutely going nowhere, then there will start to be layoffs. But I think that everybody's still hopeful that when we get a fresh start at the beginning of the week, that we can get the Democrats to see that it's just common sense to avoid layoffs like that, to avoid the $15 billion a week that the Council of Economic Advisors says will harm GDP if we have a shutdown, and also just all the payments for rent payments and so on that people won't be able to make because they're not getting paid. And so I think that we think the Democrats, there's a chance that they'll be reasonable once they get back into town on Monday. And if they are, then I think there's no reason for those layoffs.
Okay, they want to reach a deal. All right, they want to reach a deal. But you got to remember, and we've explained this before, the Republicans have proposed what is called a clean CR, which we'll get to in a second. But that is basically saying, let's keep the spending levels at where they were under Biden for another 6 weeks until we can reach a deal. And Democrats are like, no, we want more stuff thrown in. We want additional spending put in here, which they advocate for is in additional spending on healthcare and things of that nature, and subsidies that likely over time will end up being agreed upon actually by both sides. But we'll see. At least for now, they're trying to throw more stuff in. But as you start to see polling on this, we have new polling out. And it's sort of interesting. So the CBS News YouGov poll came out. CBS News and YouGov is a joke. Okay, it's a terrible poll. It's not reliable. But anyway, they had some. I pulled out a few things that were sort of interesting at it. Okay, and one of them was this: worth the shutdown. What party thinks it's worth the shutdown? I didn't even show you the Republican numbers because they're 5%. Republicans are 5% for the shutdown. Okay. 95% for no. Okay. Democrats, 48% say it's worth the shutdown. 24% say not worth shutting down. 28% are not sure. Okay. And then not only that, so who do you think's handling this the right way? Right now, voters are basically giving him the old, it's a pox on all your houses. Trump has the highest approval numbers on how he's dealing with it at 32%. Those are core Republicans. Okay. Those are just hardcore Republicans. And then congressional Republicans get 28%. Democrats, hardcore Democrats get 27%. Okay. Who disagrees with how the president's handling it? 52% say they disapprove. Congress, 52%. Congressional Republicans and congressional Democrats are basically at 50 all the way around. So again, nobody's really covering themselves in glory on this whole thing. But at least now on NBC this morning, it was an interesting little brief exchange between Hakeem Jeffries and the host of Meet the Press. And so you could just listen to this real quickly, and she lays out sort of a, hey, look, Hakeem, you guys are kind of hypocrites on this.
Ask you, because you say this is a Republican shutdown, but it's Democratic senators who are withholding their votes on what is called a clean resolution. That means no strings attached, which is something, quite frankly, Leader, that you and other Democrats have advocated for in the past. Take a look.
You do not use the threat of shutting down government to try to advance your policy agenda.
First thing that the House has to do is pass a clean 6-week CR.
A continuing resolution that is at the fiscal year 2023 levels is the only way forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is just...
It's actually impressive that Meet the Press did that.
I know.
They put those
it's
those
Kristen
clips
Welker.
together.
Kristen Welker did it. And, it's crazy, right?
Yeah, because it's basically like, hey, you guys just did this. And now you're saying, oh, this is the Republicans' fault for doing this. This is Trump's fault. And we need to
How
shut
dare
down.
you present us with a clean CR to keep the government open?
Yeah, it seems very hypocritical.
Okay, so what's interesting was I thought this was an interesting take from Van Jones, who's a Democrat, and who brings up why he thinks shutting down the government is a mistake. And we'll break down how right he is in all of this. And I want to take a little deeper dive into what he says here in just a second. But this is Van Jones on why he thinks the Democrats rather are making a mistake by shutting down the government.
Right now, if the Democrats don't do anything and they pass this clean resolution, which they don't want to do, if they did it, guess what would happen this month? Premiums would start going through the roof this month. By the time you get to the end of November, you would have Americans marching in the streets saying, I can't pay 150% more for my insurance premiums. What the heck is going on? Instead, we decided to not let that happen and shut the entire government down. So now people are going to be mad about the post office and 100 other things that Republicans can then blame on us. So I'm like, I get it. The base is upset. The base wants us to do something. Please do something, do anything. But the something probably shouldn't be throwing a bunch of people out of work in the federal government and crushing America's government's ability to function right before the pain was about to start. So that's my concern.
Right before the pain was about to start. All right, that is a hardcore political calculation, right? That is a hardcore, deep inside the process calculation of let's let the Americans have some pain and then let them blame the other party. Okay. And that happens. So who could be cut out of this? Basically, with the big, beautiful bill, there's really only one group that ends up potentially, if there's no deal reached between the two sides, then you could see increased rates in one group. Let's go ahead and just show you this. First of all, if you have most middle-income people who don't get a lot of the benefits and a lot of the subsidies from the government, they don't tend to be affected. People with Medicare or Medicaid, they're not going to be affected. Private insurance is not going to be affected. What's going to be affected are people that are on the ACA marketplace, okay, that tend to be lower income that get a lot of these benefits. And what Trump administration is saying is, hey, look, we're not going to cut anybody's benefits in this respect. We're going to remove people off the rolls who should not be getting benefits. That's what they're saying. So now, which ends up being true? Are the Democrats right or the Republicans? We're going to find out. Okay, but just so you know, that's who Van Jones is talking about when he says this. And he says people that are on ACA, lower income, get big subsidies, and the Trump administration says we're not going to hang them out to dry. Okay, but they think they will. So we'll see what ends up happening. But I just thought it was interesting in the respect of, we'll see what ends up happening here. But Van Jones saying shutting down the government's a bad idea. I think the longer this goes on, I just think it's not going to be good. I don't think it's a great thing for Democrats. As I've said, the party out of power a lot of times does start to get burned by this. And Kristen Welker's question is a great example of that, right? Where she says, you guys are the ones who are holding this up. You guys are the ones who aren't letting the government open. She said it. And I think the more people do that, the better to get this thing solved. Because if the Democrats aren't going to move at all in the mainstream media, who reaches the vast majority of Democrats, right? If they won't move them at all, then this stalemate's going to keep on going. And this is what happens all the time. When the media doesn't step up and do their job and say, wait a minute, you're the one holding this up, then nothing moves. Then these things metastasize and they turn into a bigger problem for Democrats, not a smaller one. We've talked about it all the time. The Joe Biden thing, right? They never addressed it. Just let it keep metastasizing. And what does it do? It costs them the election. You see these things time and time again in our largest cities. You have these big cities which will not fight crime and will not hold people accountable. It metastasizes and it becomes a bigger issue and no one will talk about it. The border is a disaster for years. The media says nothing. It metastasizes and causes the Democrats to lose an election. Like, these things do not help them, but yet they keep doing it. And their media allies, by staying quiet about things, continue to cause problems for them.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see how much longer this lasts and what happens this week. Like, what's going to happen this week.
Yep.
Okay, we're going to shift gears a little bit and talk about this crazy thing that's kind of blowing up with this candidate that's running for attorney general in the state of Virginia, and why we should all care about this, right?
Yeah.
Because it's fascinating how far south this has gone so quickly.
It's unreal.
We have this guy, his name is Jay Jones, okay? And he is running against incumbent Republican Attorney General Jason Miyares in November, right? This is happening this November. Well, now he's gotten in trouble. He's gotten some hot water because he has shared through texts and on a phone call his fantasies about shooting former Virginia GOP speaker. He thinks that they should receive bullets. Now, what does this mean? Like, what did he actually do? So basically what happened was he starts sending text messages to a Republican colleague. He's a Democrat, but he is sending to a Republican colleague
in the legislature,
in the state legislature. Yeah. This was a couple of years ago, okay, and starts saying that he basically wants to take out House Speaker Todd Gilbert, who was he was like the leader of the time, right? And he's talking about not only taking out this Todd Gilbert, but his family and his kids. Okay, so let me show you a little bit of this text exchange. This is Jay Jones, the guy that's running for AG, to a Republican colleague. And it says, they say...
Now, the Republican colleague is in blue. Jay Jones is in gray in this particular exchange.
Okay, so it says, they say nice things about everyone. And Jay says, if those guys die before me, I will go to their funerals to piss on their graves. Send them out a wash in something. And the woman says, Jay Jones, getting down on him. And he comes back and says, 3 people, 2 bullets. Gilbert, which is the Republican House Speaker, Hitler, and Pol Pot. Gilbert gets 2 bullets to the head. Spoiler, put Gilbert in the crew with the 2 worst people you know, and he receives both bullets every time. She says, Jay, please stop this conversation. Okay, then it goes on. And she says back to him, you weren't simply asking questions and you know it. He says, I genuinely was. I wasn't attacking you. I was trying to understand your logic. She says, you weren't trying to understand. You were talking about hoping Jennifer Gilbert's children would die, meaning the Gilbert's children would die. And he said, yes, I've told you this before. Only when people feel pain personally do they move on policy.
Hold on. Listen to what he just says there. Let's go back to that again. He said, yes, I've told you this before. Only when people feel pain personally do they move on policy, meaning people need to have their children executed before they understand. This person, this Jay Jones, is mentally compromised. He is sick. He has anyone who says this stuff is lost the thread. In speaking in this way to a fellow legislator, I mean, a fellow legislator, by the way, not in your own party.
Yeah.
And you say these horrendous things about killing people and killing your opponents. It is absolutely disqualifying to be the attorney general for the state of Virginia, which is one of the biggest jobs in the country for an attorney general, by the way.
Right. The one more that we did not throw in here, but I think it's important that we say this one. She says, she said, I honestly am questioning a lot today, meaning I'm questioning you and your morals today. Sure. And he writes back, I mean, do I think Todd and Jennifer are evil and that they're breeding little fascists? Yes. He says yes. So, I mean, he just goes on to say, like, all these horrible things, and you're trying to run as, like, the top legal man, right?
Right, the top law enforcement officer in the state of Virginia. Now, if this was a Republican who did this, it would lead every single newscast ever.
Right.
Ever.
But it's not.
But it's not.
Okay,
now, it is to some degree in Virginia, though.
Okay, so here's let's go through a little bit of Jones' response, Jay Jones' response. His first one, he says, let's be clear about what's happening in the attorney general race right now. Jason Miyares is dropping smears through Trump-controlled media organizations to assault my character and rescue his desperate campaign. Okay, that's...
so it's Trump's fault that this guy
fault.
wants to kill his political opponents and their children.
Right.
Okay, got it. Got it that it's Trump's fault.
It is. It's definitely Trump's fault.
Yep.
And then the next one is, he says, let me get to it, sorry.
I gave you the same one both times. You want me to read the other one?
Yes.
Okay, so the other one, which he also releases here, and again, this stuff gets back to some of this whole thing where it's just all about who he can blame and how he blames Trump.
His other one says, like all people, I've sent text messages that I regret, and I believe that violent rhetoric has no place in our politics. Okay, great. Again, these guys are talking out both sides of their mouth, right? So
he got caught.
He got caught. That's the only reason he's apologizing about any of this.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So then you go to Jason Miyares' comment back, the guy that's running, that's currently the AG there in Virginia, and he's running for re-election.
Yeah, and in Virginia, the governor can't be reelected to a second term, but the AG can be.
Okay,
that's that's why Youngkin's not running, but Miyares is.
Okay, and speaking of Youngkin, he's pulled away from. I mean, he has separated himself so badly from Jay Jones
separated himself. He's a Republican.
As has the current Democratic governor candidate.
Of course, Youngkin
They're all trying to run away from this guy now because
but hold on. We got to be clear about the fact that Youngkin's a Republican governor. He never loved Jay Jones, hated him from the beginning. So he's not really separating himself. He came out and ripped him,
right? Yeah,
and told him to leave the race.
Correct.
Yeah,
yes. Okay. Sorry.
Right,
my apologies.
I just don't want to Youngkin's separating himself from his good friend Jay Jones.
No, it's not that.
He is.
But when you have the Democratic gubernatorial candidate,
right? Yeah, that's different.
Also saying,
we've got something on that.
Yeah, trying to separate that.
Yeah.
Okay, back to the guy he's actually running against. This is what he said. Jason Miyares said, the Attorney General is Virginia's chief law enforcement officer. That authority must always be exercised with neutrality, integrity, and character because that's the only way every Virginian can trust the system meant to protect them. With the recent revelations, it's clear Jay Jones has shown he's reckless, biased, and willing to trade away his integrity, disqualifying himself for ever serving as Attorney General. Jay Jones wished for the violent deaths of a political opponent and then fantasized about killing the children. Opponent's children dying in their mother's arms. When confronted, he doubled down, saying that kind of grief and pain would be a good thing if it advanced his politics. And politics aside, one has to be coming from a dark place to advocate for the murder of a colleague and their family. This conduct is disqualifying.
No question.
So,
no question. I mean, this is unreal. I don't know how this guy, he should be.
He should be kicked out of the race.
Well, I don't know. You can't kick him out. You can't. There's no lever to be able to do that. Like there is not a lever to be able to do that. If this had been 8 months ago, the Democratic Party would get rid of him. They would dump him in a heartbeat.
But the race is in November.
It's in November. There's no way to get him out.
Right. Early voting actually is already happening
He's
there.
going nowhere. The question is, do the people of the state of Virginia engage enough to say, no, we're not doing this? And I think they probably will. That would be my guess. And also, Virginia media is definitely covering this. Okay. They are covering it. And so this brings up another point I want to talk about because I think it's super interesting. And it is that when you're running in these statewide races, you have a bunch of other candidates running with you. Okay. And sometimes those candidates do horrendous things. And sometimes those things reflect on you. And so you don't know exactly what to do. So sometimes you keep an arm's length from them. You don't talk about them. You don't appear with them. Those are some things you can do. Sometimes you just shred them, right? You just say, I want nothing to do with this person. Either way, it hurts you. Okay, there's no way around it. So Abigail Spanberger, who's running for governor against Winsome Sears in this race, she is now starting to try to distance herself, as you mentioned. But what the Republicans did was they took a bunch of clips of this guy in this whole controversy and they tied Jay Jones and Spanberger together. That's what happens in these races. And this is what I mean, and we talk about it all the time. Your success or failure in these races oftentimes can come down to something that's completely out of your control. We saw that happen to us, and Spanberger's starting to watch it happen to her because you're seeing this Jay Jones situation start to affect her. Now, do I think it's going to cost her the election? Probably not, okay, because she's up significantly. But I think it's going to cost Jay Jones. So just listen to what Republicans did here. It's a 1-minute ad, and they hooked up Jay Jones and Spanberger and just basically tried to throw a bunch of stank on all of them.
News from the campaign trail.
Jay Jones is under fire tonight.
Jay Jones is under fire.
Jay Jones is under fire after messages he sent in 2022 saying former Virginia House Speaker Todd Gilbert should be shot.
I'm excited about this ticket.
It's been great to be out on the campaign trail.
This is the governor
with, Jay Jones.
candidate.
You said Gilbert's wife could watch her own child die in her arms so that Gilbert might reconsider his political views.
We deserve an attorney general who will stand up for the people of Virginia.
Jones said, quote, Gilbert, Hitler, and Pol Pot. Gilbert gets 2 bullets to the head.
Let your rage fuel you.
Jones doubled down, saying, quote, do I think Todd and Jennifer are evil and that they're breeding little fascists? Yes.
How can Virginians trust a man who said something so horrific, so callously?
Only when people feel pain personally do they move on policy.
Look out.
And this is reject the insanity, vote Republican.
Yep.
Pretty powerful ad.
It's very powerful.
It will be interesting to see this because my understanding is it was a pretty close. It's been a pretty close race up till now.
The AG's race?
Yes.
Yeah, I think Miras will blow him out.
Okay.
Because of this. Now, I think Spanberger will win on her side.
The Democratic governor.
Just not by as much.
Okay. Well, another little fresh tip on this guy. I did a little digging.
Yeah.
Jay Jones also is a little heavy-footed when it comes to driving.
We got a lead foot here?
We got a major lead foot. So he got this citation. This is clip 25, LF. You zoom in. This guy, he got a ticket for going 116 miles per hour in a 70-mile-hour speed zone, okay? And again, he's going to be the top legal man, right? Okay, the top legal man.
Right.
Now given, okay?
A speeding ticket,
ticket. Go 116 guy?
Well, you going 46 over?
Okay, here's the thing. Yeah, top legal man, right? He was I don't know, he was doing something, I don't know, whatever.
All right, I get
anyway,
it.
but all that, instead of going to jail, which is the sentence for that.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's that he broke it by that bad.
Yeah.
So he did some finagling with his attorneys, and he's
Okay.
obviously an attorney, right?
Sure.
So they finagle for community service.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, but some hard work in.
Yeah, hard work. Okay. Guess what this guy does for his community service?
He goes down to the soup kitchen and puts in a couple hundred hours. No.
He decides to work for his own PAC, his own fundraising organization. That's how he goes and does his volunteer hours, who then have to submit a letter to the judge on his behalf.
I'm sure it was glowing.
And they're like, oh, he's amazing. He did such a good job. I mean, are you joking me? This guy's running for office. He serves a PAC that helps fundraise for him and put him on the ballot and help him win. That's how this guy went out. So it just speaks to his character.
It does.
Right? Like,
it does.
Number one, your top legal man can't be going 116 and a 70.
That's a little strong. Look, once you get over 100, you're like, wait a minute,
I
sir.
mean, maybe a radar detector for this guy for his next birthday. I'm just saying, like, if you're going to break the law, at least, have a radar detector.
And then he goes and serves his own PAC like a jerk.
Yeah,
I mean,
like he could have gone and actually
worst.
done something less self-serving.
Right,
But
right.
heaven forbid he does that. So again, this along with the text messages should speak to this guy's character.
No, the whole violence thing, it's this thread we've talked about for a while. The whole violence thing, I think, needs to be dealt with extremely firmly.
Yes.
By whoever has to deal with it. And I think, obviously, this happened a few years ago, right? So, but still, I think the Democrat Party needs to come out and be like, this is terrible, unacceptable. You should drum him out. And if I were Spanberger, I'd come out and say, no, this is not acceptable. I don't accept it. And I think you should vote accordingly that we should not have someone like this as our attorney general. She won't do it. But
she's
she
going to have
should.
to cut bait and run. She really is. If she has any desire, she is going to have to cut herself away from this guy and
I
say
think
something
she'll
publicly.
run from this issue. I don't think she can. I agree with you. I think you should. She should stand up and say, I don't support this, and I no longer support Jay Jones. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
I'd say, I do not support Jay Jones for this position anymore. And someone's going to say, would you support Miras? Say, I'm telling you that I endorsed Jay Jones before. I am rescinding that endorsement. Vote for whoever you want, but I will tell you, I'm not voting for Jay Jones. That's what I would say. Right there. Done. And then then you show some sense of integrity. But she plays her little. I don't know what she's going to do. We'll have to keep an eye on her and see what she does.
The New Jersey and the Virginia governor's race are always fascinating to watch because they're the only two in the country happening this year.
And we're going to break those down. I'd love to see New Jersey, especially. I think Virginia is a lost cause, but I don't think New Jersey is. So Chitterelli, love to see him win over Mikey Sherrill.
This is his third attempt to win in the governor's
race.
He's
gotten close.
Yeah, he's gotten very close both times. So eyeballs are all over this guy watching this race.
Jackie Chitterelli, come on. How do you not want a governor for the state of New Jersey named Chitterelli? I mean, that's our guy.
Maybe you need a shirt. Maybe we should contact the campaign and get you a shirt.
I do. Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
You kidding me?
All right, let's go on to this next story. Let's move on.
Well, so a couple more quick things. It's interesting. We're seeing all this stuff on Portland, and we're going to take a deep dive on Portland on Wednesday as we talk, about law enforcement, and we talk about how important it is for law enforcement to have the support of their leaders, and so that's why we're going to bring in Ken Christensen to talk about that. However, I want to just mention what's going on in Portland. It's very interesting. I saw Abby Phillip having an argument back and forth with Scott Jennings, and I don't know if you remember back about 3 or 4 months ago, maybe it was before actually the election, when J.D. Vance got into an argument with Martha Raddatz on ABC. And Martha Raddatz was like, look, you're talking about all this stuff in Colorado. It's only a couple of apartment buildings that have been taken over by Trenduragua, right? Right? Okay, Abby Phillips pulls the same thing. Scott Jennings is like, Portland's out of control, because it is. Portland's is fallen into a complete pit.
It's not just farmers markets?
No, it turns out it's not farmers markets and bike lanes. Okay. It turns out it's more than that.
Wow, who knew?
So Scott Jennings goes back and forth with Abby Phillip, but listen to her argument. Her argument is basically, yeah, there's some stuff going on, but it's a small area that they've lost control of, so don't worry about it.
This is not the first time, even in the last few months, the journalists have been arrested at protests. And it seems that in this particular instance, he was in a physical altercation with protesters. And so everybody was arrested. So now all of a sudden that's a predicate for bringing the military into Portland?
Well, no, the predicate is that Portland has been occupied by Antifa for quite some time. You guys keep calling them protests. These aren't protests. These are violent people. They're attacking law enforcement. They're attacking federal facilities. The President of the United States has every obligation
100% true.
To defend federal facilities and federal personnel there. I agree with you. It is a disgrace. It's a disgrace that we have an American city that is essentially being occupied by left-wing radicals, and the locals won't do anything about it. And so now the president...
Exaggeration of what's
it
happening
is not
in
an
Portland.
exaggeration.
I mean,
I see the video.
By local officials has been described as something that's essentially happening in one city block of Portland.
They are assaulting the ICE facilities. They are assaulting the ICE agents.
It's a city, and it's not a perfect city, but it is a city. And something occurring in one city block is suddenly Portland is war ravaged.
Do you dispute that they've attacked the ICE facility?
I didn't say anything about that. I said that it's happening in one block of the city.
Is that
so?
How many blocks is it?
Does that constitute Portland being a war-ravaged city?
I think what's happened in Portland is a disgrace. Nobody wants to go there. And yes, parts of the city are ravaged by these protesters. And federal
officials describe the
officials
city as being
believe their facilities are under attack.
Even when there are violent protests, which, by the way, nothing new about violent protests, as you know.
So it's not new, so we should let it go.
When violent protests happen, law enforcement has a responsibility to handle it. But would you describe an entire city as war ravaged when there are protests, even if they're violent, that's happening outside of a
Abby
single
Phillip
building?
can't be this ignorant and ridiculous. First of all, is she really of the belief that you have one city block that's a problem in Portland? Portland has one of the worst drug problems in the country. You have crime rates that have skyrocketed in Portland. Vacancy rates are off the charts. Go look it up before you start talking on CNN and saying it's one block. It's one block. These guys told me it's just one block, so we're good. No, it's not. It's out of control, and the homeless rates are some of the highest in the country there. What are you talking about?
And again, can you not recall that I remember the argument being from the mayor of Minneapolis, right? We're saying, well, like this protest is really controlled. It's a controlled protest. That thing blew up.
It's largely peaceful.
It's a peaceful protest, right? Where they took over a police headquarters. They could say, that's just one block. It's just one block.
So there's one police station that was burned. Give me a break.
When they end up burning down half that city, right, and it got out of control, and that city is still trying to rebuild itself.
That's what look, the interference that these media members run for policy that is dangerous, ineffective, and puts people in a position to be hurt is unbelievable, and it just makes it worse. This gets back to my whole point. It's that Abby Phillip just did what I've talked about, which is media organizations constantly running interference that allow bad policy to continue, and it turns out to be devastating. And they just let it continue because they don't call it out, and they don't say, you got to stop. You got to get this under control. You know, and Portland was once a great city. It is now it is completely fallen apart. They've done massive specials in Portland on why the city itself has failed. They've talked about it. Seattle's done the same thing. Minneapolis has done the same thing. They have special, and these are news organizations. Like, you got the ABC affiliate in Seattle, and they did a whole special on the death of Seattle, right? But it's this policy. So when I saw this soundbite, which we're about to play, from the mayor of Seattle, it pairs well. It's like a steak with a Merlot. It pairs well perfectly with Abby Phillip and her ridiculous advocacy for just portions of the city being out of control. We're fine, right? Well, listen to what Bruce Harrell, mayor of Seattle, says about law enforcement, about trying to strike that right balance between keeping people safe and, of course, trying to care for the criminal.
The criminal system has had a disparate impact on black and brown communities. Let me lead with that. So when this person is committing 6 or 7 crimes, I don't know his or her story. Maybe they were abused as a child. Maybe they're hungry.
Oh,
so my
you can commit a crime if you were
is to find
you went
their
through hard times
life
as a kid.
story to see how we could help first. I have no desire to put them in jail, but I need to protect you, and that's the calibration that we.
Yeah, that's the calibration. All right, we need to protect people if they're repeat offender criminals,
violent offenders,
because they could have had a rough upbringing.
Yeah.
Really?
No, I mean, this is what we call.
So we got hands off there.
This
Whatever.
is what we call suicidal empathy. This is the type of non-accountability that leads to American cities that are out of control. And it costs people their lives. It pushes people and their livelihoods out of cities. It's happened in Seattle. It's happened in Portland. It's happened in San Francisco. It happens in Minneapolis. It happens in Chicago. It happens all the time. And it's all the same thing. These guys all have the same suicidal empathy. Well, we got to just make sure. No.
Well, it's half our judges too. I mean, we can go into it there. I mean, honestly, like the catch and release system that New Mexico is under, and you can't understand, like, how did you let that person out with even like with one of the little bracelets on or whatever, the ankle bracelets, right? Like that did nothing to protect the citizen that they went out and shot. And right after, I mean, we've talked about that numerous times.
Look at the Brett Kavanaugh story, right? Brett Kavanaugh, there's a trans person who tried to kill Brett Kavanaugh. The judge said because part of the reason they gave a light sentence, 8 years versus 20 or 30, which they should have given them, was because of their struggles with transgenderism or what they're dealing with and what their family's dealing with. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
It has nothing to do with the crime
and again,
itself.
it will lead to the end of the party if they keep doing this. It just doesn't work. Mm-hmm. And so you're just going to erode, and you end up killing your own party. But whatever.
Okay,
so,
we're going to end on some happy news.
Yes.
Before Mark's Sunday video of the day, right?
Sunday game day.
Sunday game day. I can't remember the name of this.
Come on now.
This little shtick that we do. I found some video for you that I think is going to just wow and amaze you. Okay. Yes. So I don't know if you heard about this fat bear competition.
Oh my gosh, I've heard about it for years.
They have it in a national park in Alaska.
Katmai.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
So here's the winner, and I wanted to show you the winner from the fat bear competition. His name is Chunk.
Oh, holy cow! You know what? And I think I read about
ginormous.
Chunk. He is huge, and guess what the deal with Chunk is?
What's that?
He has a broken jaw.
Oh my gosh!
He broke his jaw fighting with another bear.
Oh.
Okay, and he injured his paw as well. Didn't matter. Kept going, and he's believed to weigh what? 1,200, 1,400 pounds?
Well, he's enormous. I mean, he's a big fellow. I think what's interesting is how much video they have of this one bear in the national park.
Oh, he's unreal. Well, because
I'm sure they're watching him.
No, I'll tell you why
carefully.
they have so much video. He's been a top competitor for the award the past 2 years.
Past. Okay, I didn't get all that.
Yeah. So what happened was he lost out to a female bear last year.
Okay,
there's some rough stories on this. I'm not going to tell you one of the rough stories.
I don't want to know.
Yeah, Chunk is. You want it? What? You want to know?
Els,
all right, Els, get on the mic here. I'll tell you the story. Okay, here's the thing about Chunk. Okay. Chunk last year was eating salmon. Okay. Mm-hmm. This female bear had a cub. The cub fell down the river and went into Chunk's area that Chunk was eating salmon. and Chunk injured the little bear, and he ended up dying.
No.
So Chunk is there. He is. There's his broken jaw.
My gosh.
You can see the broken jaw. So this guy, while Chunk is kind of an interesting name, I got to tell you, this guy's
like
a bit of a tough guy.
He looks like Maverick.
No, he doesn't.
He does not look like our
You
dog
guys,
Maverick.
it's so weird. You guys, the kids and Mark in our family think that every animal they say looks like our husky.
Yeah.
Can you fix a bear's broken jaw?
I don't think so. I think you
And
just
why,
let it heal.
Why would we really at this
yeah,
point?
Because
at that
he's
point.
so cute.
Well,
He looks like he's got like scar on
yeah,
his
he's
nose,
been
too.
when you're the big bear in the neighborhood.
Yeah,
boy,
well,
you get,
I was just picking it because I thought he's the fat. He's
well,
the fat
I know,
bear
but then I started
winner.
diving in to this backstory on this guy because I had to know, and it turns out there's
The
some
story
stuff.
is here. The motto, the moral is the same. Bears don't want to be your friend. When Mark shows me videos of bears walking around,
All right.
that are right next to where we're building, I don't need to go for a walk right there. I don't
Okay,
need
well
to go out there.
let's just take a look because we got this guy.
Great.
In this week, there he is. There's the
my
big fella.
gosh.
Look at the size of him.
Yeah,
like he's getting ready to go for
to
the.
hibernate, guy.
Yeah, look at him. I mean,
Yeah,
look at the
he's
Bo Keister
so
on that fella.
cute. Okay,
He
yeah,
is.
again, he's
I
so
mean,
cute. He's so cute, you guys, that
Yeah.
he does not want to be your friend. So
Yeah.
let's not misunderstand that.
But I think there's a couple berry bushes there is what I think he was doing because he
Yeah.
sat there for a while
Okay.
eating those berry bushes. Okay, number 2, we had a quick visit from a little coyote. There he
Okay.
goes.
Oh, very little.
There he goes.
Yep, very
Yep,
nice.
just
That
going
thing
right on
is
by.
ugly.
Yeah,
Very
he goes
New
by.
Mexican.
Oh no,
We have a
but
little
the best
coyote,
one,
yeah.
the best one, we got a skunk.
Oh my
Yeah, we got a
goodness.
skunk this week. It was good.
Little Pepe Le Pew
Oh
again?
yeah, Pepe Le Pew comes across, and the skunk, he's moving pretty quick too. Look at him.
Oh yeah, he
Look
is.
at the little backside on him.
Yeah.
Look at that thing.
Yeah, he's.
He goes right on by.
Yeah, he gets fired up.
Yes.
Okay, never dull on Mark's little game day videos.
Oh, I know. I love him though. He
I
looks
know.
good.
I know.
One thing we have not seen
He
yet.
looks good.
He does look good. We have one thing we haven't seen yet.
He's not an ugly skunk.
No,
in
he's
case
not.
you were curious, he's looking good.
But we haven't seen a raccoon
That's okay with me.
or a fox.
I do. I like the fox. I'd like to see a fox.
Yeah. So
That'd
we
be
don't have
good.
a fox or raccoon yet.
Like foxes, rabbits.
Yeah, we got a ton of rabbits.
chipmunks.
I don't even show you rabbits.
Those are my people.
I don't
Those
even
are-
show you rabbits
those are
because
the
we got
creatures
too
I
many.
want to see.
Yeah. But anyway, so hey, by the way, again, Ken Christensen coming up on Wednesday. We're going to talk law enforcement under fire.
Okay, a quick reminder, you guys, please like and subscribe, rate and review our shows. If you're watching on YouTube, you can't make a comment and else you like and subscribe to our station. That's how it works, our channel. And then we're able to read those at that point. If you want to catch our emails, just go to nodoubtaboutitpodcast.com. Sign up for our emails. I promise we will not spam you. We only send you information regarding this show.
Oh, wait, can I make a picture of my t-shirts?
Oh, yeah.
On our website is our address for the podcast. And if you want to send your local high school,
Oh, yeah.
I'm taking requests.
Make
I'm
sure
doing
you guys send him an XL. He's
No,
working out. He's working out, people.
I know. Well, large will work. Although this is an XL, it's a little.
Yeah,
a little
I would.
beefier.
XL, large, one of those,
All
right?
right.
Especially if they're high schools. If they're like a little
I'd
large.
like to- yeah, if you're sending me kid sizes, don't do that.
Okay, so our website is on our. Our address, our mailing address is on our website, so you can scroll down there to check that. It's also on the very bottom of the emails if you get our emails as well. So you guys have a great start to your week, and we will see you back here on Wednesday. Thanks, and God bless.
You've been listening to the No Doubt About It podcast. We hope you've enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at No Doubt About It Podcast.
No doubt about it.
The No Doubt About It podcast is a Choose Adventure Media production. See you next time on No Doubt About It.
There is no doubt about it.